Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of WICCI Podcast. Here we meet leaders who are making waves in the industry. And I'm so happy that today I have a very dear friend who's also a very proficient leader in the space of public relations and communications. We have with us today Pratishtha Kaura, who comes from the Millennial Club of Public Relations. She is not a traditional PR person, but a coder who turned into a creative storyteller. So she comes with a multi-sectoral view and experience of close to 12 years. In this time in PR, she has not only worked in-house on the in-house side of communications, but has also worked with diverse PR consultancies to offer services and guidance to various brands that she's worked with over a period of time. Something that's very inspiring and interesting about her is how Pratishtha has this passion for PR for PR. A lot of us at times tend to work from the back end and do not pay attention to how PR is perceived in the market, but she's been somebody who's been a champion of this space for a long, long time. And that led to many accolades that she has to her name, both in individual capacity and also as a champion, as a thought leader in the space. So she won 30 under 30 early on in her career as one of the great accolades. Then IPRCCA went to recognize her as a young PR professional of the year for the year of 2019 before COVID hit. And she's been doing some great work since. Of course, we'll hear from her. Today, she joins us in the capacity of also another WICCI Council member, just like myself. And as young leaders, we're all trying to bring in positive change in the industry. So, without further ado, I'll welcome Pratishtha, and I'll invite her to share her own journey in her own voice, more from a perspective of learnings that she's had, evolution that she's seen in the space, and where she thinks this space and herself, both of them are, and what learnings we can take from there. So over to you, Pratishtha. Welcome.
Thank you, Garima. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here and lovely to be speaking to you. I think we've had great conversations over whenever we work together off work, and so yeah, it's great to be here. And thank you so much for that introduction. Yeah, I think if I can say that for myself only, I'm like an enthu cutlet whenever it comes for PR for PR. And I mean, I still like calling myself that. I am still very enthu for this particular bit because I think it's just purely comes from my passion. It was because people used to call me that you have that passion. I also kind of named my Twitter handle as PR Wali. I think many people still today call me not Pratishtha or PK or whatever different names I have, but as PR Wali. So I think it's great to do that, and I think that comes from. I might sound very over enthusiastic, but I mean I hold pride in this because we as PR professionals, communications professionals are always working at the back end, and the kind of things that we see our leaders speaking, doing is also something that we advise them on. So I think I heard it from someone say it very beautifully. That we make our CEOs look like CEOs or executives look like superheroes, which is, I think, so well articulated. So yeah, I mean, it's such great work that we all do. It's been, I think, it's not a very prominent profession. It wasn't when I think we started our career. I mean, of course, then you would have started also before me. But even when I started my career, I was like, okay, PR. Like my parents didn't understand what I do. They're like, okay, something to do with media and all of that. So I think I try. I'm just trying. I just have been trying to decode what is it that we do for my parents, for people who might not understand what PR is. And yeah, that's where my this passion comes in. You already mentioned I've been working in-house as well as on the comms consultancies front for the last 12 years now. But I think it it was way back when I left. I come from a coding background. I did my bachelor's. I came from my hometown to Delhi, like 14, 15 years ago. I studied and I just started working into PR. And I think since day one, I've been really passionate. about what the work is. Of course, there have been learnings, there have been so many things. I've made mistakes, stumbled upon a lot of things, and also developed a lot of uh, the road or the path that would lead to doing something meaningful. That's how it's been. I mean, I still keep talking about these things in my own close circles, within my professional community, or with my friends, and also sharing my thoughts whenever possible on social media, so be it Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever. So, so
You
yeah.
know, that's so wonderful, Pratishtha, because I read somewhere that life is all that's there in the present moment, right? Everything else is an illusion. Everything else that you carry
Yeah,
from what's in the past is your thoughts, and everything that you're thinking about future is also illusion. And if you have to be an illusion, then why not be an enthusiastic, because you use that word multiple times. Why not be enthusiastic and optimistic about it rather than being somber and pessimistic about it, right? And just the fact that
yeah,
we are like the wind beneath the wings of a lot of other functions that happen in the corporate space. It's important that we talk about that, and therefore it's crucial. One thing that's very interesting, because you champion the cause of young leadership as well, and you were somebody who took it in your hands very early on. You didn't depend for somebody else to really push you, or really, of course, I'm
yeah,
sure there would be people around you to guide, but there is this self-starter spirit that you possess and you really champion. So I'd like to understand where does that come from, one, and what is the role of skills? Because increasingly there's this conversation in the sector that the entry barrier in PR is not much, right? You do not
yeah,
need
correct.
too much on the degree front or on the education on the paper front to step into this career. Yes, there are a few skills that you must possess, like the gift of gab or looking a certain way. And when I say looking, I don't mean the beauty or but charisma, more like the personality that you
Yeah,
command, right? But as you get, so wo to ho gaya, you've got into the space, but upskilling, you're also somebody who's very, very vocal about the need for on the job training, unlearning,
yeah,
relearning, and upskilling, right? Talk about that.
absolutely.
Where does it come for
Sure.
you individually, and what is your take on the industry per se as well?
Got it. Got it, Garima. Thank you so much for that question. I think I'll speak about again something one of my seniors said long back, that PR is more about know and how. Okay, know is knowledge. Knowledge we can build by reading books, newspapers, whatever, whatever. How is the skill? And that skill is something that we'll have to continue building on. It's not something, I think we've spoken about this even when you and I have one-on-one connected. That skilling for ourselves. I mean, I think when I started working, social media was so new. People were still trying to figure out how to use it for themselves, building their own personal brands, as well as how brands wanted to use that. Um, and I think influencer marketing came much, much later. And the people we now know as very popular influencers I mean, I've seen how that has grown. So, so it just comes from that way, that in terms of how PR, you have to stay relevant. How do you stay relevant? Is you continue building on the knowledge, because you are a consultant. You have to give advice to your leaders. How do you make sure that you are able to give a good advice? Can only be based on knowledge. Secondly, skilling. In terms of PR, there was a point when I think the major channels that existed were media, or in terms of own channels also, there was website, there's been .com boom, and then how social media came up, and now we have, I think, numerous tools available out there for us to communicate. So it's just about, if something new is coming up, and how we can integrate that into our profession, because it's definitely going to have an impact. So it's just about sheer curiosity. I think that I have had that. First, it was social media. I wanted to learn it. I think I was also kind of an early adopter, because the social media was just coming up, and I was trying to learn. And people who were senior to me, much senior to me, other than, of course, my leaders I had to work with, it was more about how do I make sure that I'm able to give them the good advice in terms of building their thought leadership in the space. So it was just curiosity from how I built that. I think today social media marketing, influencer marketing is just just like an inherent part of all our
Right.
communication campaigns,
Mm,
right?
mm,
So,
mm.
so it was just, I think, curiosity, that made me learn that. A lot of things I've learned on the job. A lot of things I have tried to kind of make my juniors learn. I tell them always what's the process, how you can go about it, learn, meet new people, speak to them and understand those kind of things. And also, I think what's happened today, specifically with now, I mean, when again, same point, when I started working, millennials versus the senior generation was something, oh my God, how do you work with millennials? And today we have like three generations working with Gen Z also coming into the picture. So
Correct.
it's a different
Yeah.
ball game altogether. And I'm at a stage where I have a, a generation who's so senior to me. I'm working with them, and who are super super senior to me. And then I also have a set of people who's a different generation. I mean, nowadays we can say generation gap even comes in 5 to 6 years. But even before that, like now that I've spent 12 years, there are people who are just starting from college, and I meet them and I speak to them. So it's like it's a multi-generational workforce.
Correct.
And it's very interesting to see different perspectives of each generation. Mine, theirs,
On the table.
could be
Yeah.
Gen Z and my senior. So it's how they come together. And very interesting thing is every generation has their own mindset and their own way of working.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm somewhere in between, sandwiched between the two to
Yeah,
manage
and
that.
I'd like to come there and specifically talk about that. But before that, I'd like to assimilate and process it for myself and for the listeners and the audience who are going to listen to,
Yeah,
hear us. What I hear you say in terms of upskilling is one, it's the need of the hour because the space is so dynamic that's changing every day. You want to be relevant, you want to add value, you better keep evolving alongside. But at a
yeah,
personal level, there needs to be this desire, this curiosity to learn more, and this desire to offer excellence in what you're doing.
yeah,
Also, when you say multi-generational, this is one rare space where the black hair is teaching the gray hair instead of the gray hair teaching the black hair,
yeah. That's
in
nice way
boardrooms.
to put it.
We early on in our careers, it used to be so intimidating to sit in those boardroom meetings, and
Yeah,
because ultimately as a community, as a storyteller, you're dealing with the top there. And what I also hear you say is that with the dynamism that's coming in PR is not just earned media, it's earned, owned, paid, social, this, that, anything and everything that you can think of. And if you want to stay relevant and if you want a bigger share of the pie, you be prepared for that. And that's where skilling comes in. A lot of it is informal, but increasingly there is a lot of formal skilling also that's coming in. And
yeah,
as leaders,
yeah,
it's crucial for us to learn ourselves and impart it at multi-level, right? Then here comes the conversation of cross generational learning at workplace, which is so interesting, right? Um,
yeah,
Average age of a consulting space at least is mid 20s, right? But both your leaders in the agency or in the consulting space or otherwise, people who call the shots would be
yeah,
around 40s and 50s. And like you rightly said, यहाँ तो 5 years में generation gap आ रहा है, let alone that. And the other thing is that these people have to work for them. So
yeah.
help me understand, what would be your 3, 4 tips on how to make this work? What you've seen works in this space.
Okay. Um, I think it's what makes it work is actually a very broad question, and I don't think I'll have a right answer to that, but I can answer it in parts. Um,
Mhm.
I have had experience of working with Gen Z professionals, and I know, I mean, we accuse them and we kind of say so many
We are
things
harsh
about
on
them,
them, yeah.
which shouldn't be the case. But I really like the way Gen Z works.
Mhm.
They just have very clear boundaries that I want my work. They definitely want to do good at work. but they're also very clear that we want to have a work-life balance. We also have a life beyond work. I think what had happened to our millennial and the millennials beyond generation is the lines between work and life are always blurring. Okay. And because of that, there was always an integration between work and life. We will get our work to our home and we'll also get our life to work, maybe, whatever. But I think what has happened interestingly is with various generations coming together, it's just about understanding what is it that I can learn from the other person. I'll again bring that point about A staying relevant. Like, for example, there are a lot of my senior professionals and some of my friends, colleagues I know who today might not be very much aware about AI or Gen AI. They don't know how to use AI. And I'll bring that example because it's the most recent one. It's most, I think most of us can relate to it. But the Gen Z, they are pro at it. I mean, I get to know a lot of new tools from my juniors, from my coworkers who have been in that space and they're experimenting. So I think, of course, I know and I have my own set of tools that I want to use for my work. AI tools I'm speaking about. So that is something today it's about learning from each other in the best manner and the best way we all can. Like, I really respect the fact in the way our seniors, I mean, my seniors have built their careers. They have started from scratch. There used to be a growth. They have, I mean, there was a time when press releases were sent via fax. I've heard those stories. And I mean, I've worked in some markets, but today, I mean, so it's just that they have been in a position where they had nothing. We today have so much is the problem of plenty, but how do we make sure that we get intelligent solutions into the pictures? I think that growth mindset somewhere also cuts across all generations. We all want to learn, which is great thing. So I think I'll just say that is something which is there. And now what's also happened in the last few years is, and you can add on to it because you also look at a lot of upskilling programs and you've yourself been a part of it. There is a very structured way of upskilling. Earlier, there are a lot of communities now, like I mean, and I'm going to bring in WICCI here in a bit. But but they've been there are formal training programs where you can go and learn based on what working area that you have and build on your strengths. I would not call them weaknesses, but I will call them as a working area. So if, for example, public speaking, I think many people are afraid of public speaking. I used to be at one point in time, and I'm not ashamed. I've taken courses to learn that and build that skill that I'm not afraid of speaking and going out and speaking to people anymore. So there are a lot of those formal training programs that exist today, which is great. I think there were not many. I think when I started my career, it was like you do your graduation, post graduation, you get into work, and then and then there are a lot of those informal training programs and newer formats like these communities. I see a lot of PR communities now existing. Coming together. It's not just about asking media contacts with each other, but how do we make sure that we are learning from each other, which is where I'll bring in our WICCI PR and Digital Marketing Council. I think all of us, the bunch of women that we are working for, specifically women in communication, the great work that we are doing, we're learning from each other. There are a lot of things I get to learn from my seniors, from my peers, from whoever. And it also gives you things that you will not, you might be shy to ask in your regular classroom kind of an environment or at work. So I think that's a great thing that has happened now with these. Honestly, I had joined WICCI PR Digital Marketing Council because, again, I always wanted to give back to the community. It's that passion which has been existing. I've learned a lot of things the hard way. I wanted to make it easier for the others, which could be anybody. So whoever I can help and enable them is something that I wanted to do, which is why I do this. And it's totally beyond my work, which is, I mean, I have my regular day job that I have. So So I think it's just about how there is a lot of structure in upskilling. There is a need, there was always a need of upskilling, and how now things informally also are happening. But I think the crux or the preliminary fact that I will say about is we need to have that desire to stay
Hmm,
relevant and
hmm, hmm,
stay
hmm.
upskill and keep upskilling ourselves. That has to come from within. It cannot be forced.
Right.
I mean, it cannot be a part of your PRA.
Right, right. No, what amazing, you've touched on various aspects of how this all comes together, and it is like a jigsaw puzzle. There's not any one thing that brings it alive. Uh, Clearly, one in a multi-generational sort of a setup, what I hear you say is respect for each other, respect for what we bring to the table. Say, for example, if younger generation wants to set boundaries and live life a certain way, because this is the age of over connection and over information versus the older generation, or the more experienced ones operate a certain way. Being open to learning, having the zest for learning, the growth mindset, that's crucial. Being open to reverse mentoring, each other in different areas, and if need be, doing the self-reflection and going for structured upskilling are few
Yeah.
things that I take away from what we are saying here, and that's amazing. And of course, platforms like Wiki enable that kind of structured exchange. So great, Pratishtha. I'm sure with what you're saying, this is inspiring a lot many people, not just the younger ones, but the ones who are peers, because um without really being boastful here, the fact is that anybody who takes the initiative, anybody who tries to put their learnings out there, anybody who wants to give out, is clearly somebody who's like a growth mindset oriented person. And even the peers and seniors have a lot to learn from there. So this is all in, for the good of the larger learning that goes out in form of these conversations. We now come, and you've covered the wiki piece, so I'll not ask that question separately, but we come to this really fun part, which is like a quickie sort of a closure, sort of a segment where I'd
Yes.
like, upbeat, quick answers from you. Any books or podcasts that you'd like to recommend to PR professionals, anything that came handy
I
or
I
still comes
love
handy?
I love this book, and I have often reread it, which is Start with Why by Simon Sinek. It's a very popular book. There's a TED talk by his name also, and he mentions about how various companies start with why, and I think that's a very good example of what we need to do. So I think that's, if anybody has to read just one book
बहुत
even in
बढ़िया.
their
I'm so
lifetime,
I'm so glad that you're so clear कि ये पढ़ लो यार. Let's just begin with this one
right.
thing and rest everything. Be it your personal why, your professional why, your growth, your great, profound yet a good quick one. 3 tips to stay calm in a crisis. Crisis is way of life in communications because generally you're dealing with so much, right?
Yeah.
And I know that you worked with situations, internal, external, personal,
Yeah.
a lot of crisis. How to stay grounded.
How to stay grounded and calm. Okay. It's a very big word to say, stay mindful, but I think we just need to take a pause, take a step back. There could be 100 things getting bombarded on you, and you're like, I don't even know where to start. So I think it's just take a break, take a pause, have a glass of water, breathe. I've learned these tips also over time. I used to be like that one hyper person. So people who know me like from the last 4 or 5 years, and when they meet me now, they're like, you're a different person altogether. So uh, I think it's just these two, three things. Take a pause, take a step back, understand why we are doing this and why we need to do this, and then get back to work. And I think things just get better.
No, that's such a lovely answer because generally people give you these big strategic words and they tell you how to break it down and they tell you how to go step by step. But this is so
आई नो,
reasonable.
आई मीन अगर मैं बोलूंगी मेडिटेशन कर लो यार, मेडिटेशन अब बैठ के हम यहाँ पे क्राइसिस कर रहे हैं, मेडिटेशन थोड़ी करूंगी मैं बैठ
No, that, and this is so reasonable that guys just, and one has seen these things work, that there is chaos, leave it for a bit, go. state change in whatever
Yeah,
way possible, be it
in
breathing, be
whatever.
it what,
Yeah,
sipping a glass of
take a
water or
walk
whatever.
or whatever. Yeah,
वो कर लो, rest, everything will fall into place and there'll be enough people around to help you.
yeah.
Cliche, but but super important. Work-life balance.
What on work-life balance?
Any tips, anything? What are your thoughts on work-life balance? What have you learned in these 12 years? How to maintain that balance? And are there any quick fixes there, or any, like you earlier said, boundaries? I think that's a conversation that only started happening after COVID, when we bled into
After
each
COVID. Yeah,
other's homes and everything, where
yeah.
people started taking it seriously,
Seriously.
right? And now it's
That's
gone to a level where it's become such a big human right
yeah,
that I have enough people who have a different perspective. But what's your perspective on
yeah.
work-life
Perfect.
balance quickly, and how do
Cool.
you find
I think
yours?
yeah, I mean, I'll say I've been a workaholic for a long time in my career, but I don't want that to happen to anybody because it has like grave results on your health, mentally, physically, both.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely nobody should be a workaholic. Do work, but I think it's just about you creating boundaries. I know I'm repeating that. My work and the good thing is this hybrid work has made it easier for us to kind of create those boundaries as and when. Also, kind of also understand what timing works for you. Like when I have to do some
Mm.
very serious documents where I need to focus, just evening and nighttime works better. I've been insomniac. I get those phases where I'm not still sleeping. So I think when I have to put in my full attention to something, I like that time of the day more. So I prefer doing my meetings, etc., during the day and that. So just creating, identifying, I think what works for you in what way that you are also productive is better. And then of course integrating. I mean, integrating work and life balance. There are days when I just want a change of place, so I work out of a cafe. It doesn't impact my productivity. In fact, productivity gets better. So I think
Yeah.
we just need to create those boundaries, like this half an hour. For example, when I'm having food, and I know we had all those learnings, etc., in COVID, but I make sure that whenever I'm having food, I'm not looking at my phone. Either I'm talking to
Mm.
somebody or I'm just having food in peace.
Mm.
It cannot be both things. I cannot be working also and eating also. So that that mental boundaries have to be created by you for yourself. Nobody can do it for you. It's just as plain and simple as that. The world will keep burning or whatever will keep happening. That's all. And
You
there
know,
will
when I
be days where
listen,
I feel
when I
that.
listen to you, Pratishtha, you come across as somebody who's invested enough time to be present with themselves. Only when you
Right.
are present with yourself do do these things come to you so naturally.
Yeah.
And that's phenomenal, because as a young leader, you know, these things is what is going to take you far. You need to evaluate what is going to make your boat go faster. So if it's not always running on the speed of 100 kilometers per hour that's going to take you faster in these games. At time you need to slow down and be with yourself. So that's phenomenal. My last question: any myth that's going around in the PR industry that you want to burst? This could be the life of traditional media versus social media. This could be AI replacing people, whatever comes to your mind, like one fun myth.
I actually wanted to touch upon how AI is going to take away jobs and AI cannot help you. I love AI. I mean, I love it. There was recently an AI appreciation day, and I was making fun that I appreciate it every day. I don't need a day because it's great the way it can bring a change in our lives. I think I use AI now in almost everything, and it's so helpful. And I mean, there are so many tools available out there. I personally really like Copilot and ChatGPT, and based on different uses whenever I have, they can help you in your work. I mean, I am left with extra work. It's not that I want to do intelligent work, and this is a common thing. I think many
True.
people think that we want to do intelligent work. So that intelligence is still there. It's not going to replace you. You still need to. There's very important that that human agency is there. So I am there. I'm I mean, even if I'm using AI for my writing, I make sure that I don't lose my voice. I'll make sure that this is Pratishtha talking and not AI talking. But yeah, it's helpful in research in so many things. And now you can think of doing so many different things. It makes you productive. So I think this is a big myth which is going on, and people who are saying this is just people who don't know how to use it effectively.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
all.
yeah. You just said that, and it was just here. I heard someone say, an expert quote this, that it's not AI that's going to replace people. It's people who know how to work with AI efficiently that are going to replace the ones who are not initiated on AI, right? So I think you're saying the same thing, on how it's making you more productive. A lot of people who get intimidated about that with that thought completely condemn it to an extent.
Yeah,
It's just a tool and how we use it. So great. I think that's not just a PR specific myth, that's across industries.
overall.
More
Yeah.
so for us because we use a lot of light writing. So thank you so much, Pratishtha. This was a great conversation. Some
Thank you,
very important
Garima.
permanent points, pertinent points that came up. But I think what I am taking away from this conversation is being real to yourself, being in touch with yourself, knowing where you're going, the why conversation that we had, and just when you're grounded in your own authenticity, then things just work out for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like be you, the world will adjust. Thank you so much. I loved having this conversation, and thanks for your time as well. Happy to, share my thoughts whenever that helps anyone.
Lovely, lovely. I'm sure more and more people will find this useful whenever they tune into this podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You have a great day ahead.
Thanks. Bye. You
Thank
too.
you.
Take care.
Signing off. Bye bye.